Um, Now, we are certainly a free society, and are we acting prudently? Personally, for the most part, I think yes, but time will disclose if our choices were correct. I think it will show that most of us did the right thing. Everyone didn't do the same thing, but I think many people have adjusted their behavior in a way that they think will help. Some went to one extreme, some went to another, but most were somewhere in the middle. That's what I've seen anyway. That's what I believe anyway. Okay. Now, my feelings, personally, this isn't gospel. This isn't cast in stone. These are my personal feelings on what to do during the pandemic. Remember way back when this whole thing started and they had the original CDC guidelines, okay? Look, social distance when you can. Stay 6 feet apart. When you can't, make sure you wear a mask if you're in closer proximity, because sometimes you just can't. Try to limit travel. Try to limit your exposure. Go to the store less often. One person goes to the store, not two. Those types of things. Not don't leave, always wear a mask even when you're in the bathtub. No. Those suggestions, those guidelines that would help, remember that term, flatten the curve. In other words, look, people are going to get sick. People are going to get this pandemic or get this coronavirus until a vaccine is found. But if enough people don't get sick too quickly, those that are sick can be helped. And while we'll still have people getting sick, those people can be helped. They can be treated, and it won't overwhelm the hospitals. That was the original thing that the CDC and the WHO and governments kind of touted, okay? Now, all that still applies. The rest of it, in my opinion, is just chin music. And it's chin music that just angers people. And again, this is my opinion, but it's my opinion based on information that I gathered from reliable sources. And especially early on, dear listeners, please understand, I ran myself crazy reading every reliable piece of information that I could, okay? Now, that said, I am not damning those who disagree with me, okay? I'm not damning the scamdemic crowd, the ones that say, well, the virus it's the same as a cold or the flu. Some people say that. Or that mask mandate, why? That mask mandate is the first step in a socialist dictatorship. I'm not buying that either. And I'm not also buying I'm not afraid. I'm not going to get it. I'm not buying that either. Now, that being said, I disagree with those people. But I certainly understand why they believe what they do. Okay. Now, some of them are just silly. Some of them are just nut jobs. Okay. But you're always going to have a small percentage of those types of people looking at anything. Okay. And this time is no exception. Some of them are just being silly. Okay. They haven't thought this thing out. But most of the people who think this way, most of it, I believe, have looked at the facts and they've just reached a different conclusion than me. Okay. Now, why would they reach a different conclusion than me? For your consideration, the CDC, the WHO, they've changed their stories countless times. Now, maybe it's because, as some say, they amend their story due to changing information or new discoveries. Maybe. Or maybe it's because they just make it up as they go. That could be. Now, you may say, what's wrong? What do you mean make it up as they go? Well, who's the face of the pandemic in the United States? Dr. Fauci. Remember early on, he says, don't bother with a mask. A mask isn't going to work. Then he reversed himself. And then he said, well, the reason I said this because I didn't want people, the healthcare workers, to worry about having to wear masks because they might just stay home and not work in the hospitals. So in other words, you lied to the people so that you get healthcare workers to put their own lives in jeopardy to do your bidding. Based on that alone, one of the first things that Dr. Fauci did, I can't ever trust another thing that he says because he lied to the people. He put lives in danger just to get his agenda across. I can certainly understand why people think the way they do, okay? And we have to look at our dear leaders and how they've reacted, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? I just so happen to have a list, okay? What are the worst hit states in this whole pandemic? New York State, California, Illinois. 3 of the worst hit states. So just let's look at the actions of some of the governors of those states. Let's start with Governor Gavin Newsom of California. He's asking people to call the police on their neighbors if they think they have a crowd more than 10 people that aren't in their family in their houses. He's asked them to do that, to rat on your neighbors, call the police on your neighbors, because there's no inside dining. There's no outside dining in California. In fact, if you want to buy something from a restaurant, it has to be takeout service. So what did Gavin Newsom do recently? He dined inside at a restaurant called French Laundry up in the Bay Area, or Napa, actually. It's a restaurant. And who did he dine with? Lobbyists and top officials from the California Medical Association. He dined inside, which was against the rules, large crowds, which was against the rules, without masks, which was against the rules, and they weren't family member, which was against the rules. At first, he denied it. Oh, we didn't do this. Yeah, you did. See, here's the pictures. Oh, you're right. We did. And how did he react to that? He apologized for his bad judgment. Case number 2. Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York, again, putting down these tough mandates. Do not travel and do not have big gatherings, okay? Well, he planned on having his 90 or 89-year-old mother and his 2 daughters over to his house for Thanksgiving. They're not his immediate family. Mom is 89, and it exceeded the 10-person limit that he put on households. Okay? After he got caught, he tried denying it. They said, no, look, you even admitted it in this statement that you made. Oh, yeah. And his answer? Well, that was a bad judgment. I think I'll not do that now. In other words, he got caught and reversed it. Would he have if he didn't get caught? Hell no. He'd have done whatever he wanted. You do this, but I'm going to do that. Case number 3, Governor J.D. Pritzker of Illinois. Again, he has told residents, do not, especially if you're in Chicago, but he's told residents, do not travel any place for the holiday. Don't travel. Stay at home with your immediate family. That's it. Do not travel. Well, he'd already sent his wife to their Florida vacation home, and he was going to join his wife and kids in that vacation home, him and his son, who was home still in Chicago. Well, basically, they called him on it. He denied, or he didn't deny it. He changed the topic. They kept calling him on it, and then he said, well, okay, I guess I won't be going to Chicago or to Florida. I'll stay in Chicago. Just me and my son won't get a chance to see my family. Again, do as I say, not as I do. Case number 4, Colorado. Now, I don't know if Colorado's having the problems that New York and Illinois and California are having, but the mayor of Denver, Michael Hancock, he urged people to stay home. Do not travel. Stay at home with your immediate family. So what was he going to do? Well, visit his daughter in Mississippi. And he got caught. So then he just stuck out his bottom lip, stomped his feet, and says, okay, I guess I won't be seeing my family. I guess I'll be spending the holiday season alone. You know, like I told you had to do. Those are 4 examples of what our dear leaders have done. Put down these mandates, say that you have to do this, and then they had no intentions of doing anything close to it. Now, at least Trump downplayed the virus, didn't wear a mask, got COVID-19, and then recovered, okay? Now, was that a silly thing to do? Maybe. But at least his actions were not hypocritical like these 4 that I just mentioned, okay? Now, in a conclusion to what the reason I even brought this stuff up, in a free society, it's by far best for a happy, prosperous life to be had if you live in a free society. But it's not nirvana, okay? It's certainly not nirvana. A free society has its own problems. It has its own set of missteps and things you're going to have. There is no nirvana out there, okay? But you can't understand why some people are saying, I don't trust the HWO, I don't trust the CDC, I don't trust the governors, because look at the way they've acted. They're either lying through their teeth or clueless. And you can almost understand why some people are even going to the lengths of being a conspiracy theorist, saying this whole thing's a scamdemic. Because if you are truly putting yourself in danger by being around more people than a few or your immediate family, then why did Governor Newsom, Governor Cuomo, Governor Pritzker, Mayor Hancock, why did they do this? Is it because they thought that they were immune from getting the coronavirus? I don't think they're that stupid. Were they just rolling the dice and hoping they'd be okay? Maybe. Or were they thinking, you know what? We're not buying any of this. This is all baloney. We're going to do what we want because we're going to be fine because this whole thing is a scamdemic. I think that's why some people take the attitude that they take. I don't agree with them, but I'm not going to call them murderers and Nazis and morons, because I think they too, like me, are looking at these facts, things that actually happened, things that actually were said and done, and just taking a different catch on this, a different way of looking at it, okay? That's what I believe. Now, I mentioned that in a free society, you have good things happening, but you're always going to have bad things happening too, okay? Things just happen, all right? I'll give you an example. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal this morning about how the pandemic is affecting some of these poorer countries in Central Europe, Poland, Hungary, Romania, those types of countries that they're part of the EU, but their economies have not evolved like Western Europe. They're not Germany. They're not France. They're not Italy. They're not UK, okay? They're more in a developing stage of being part of the EU. But the pandemic has devastated Central Europe, not so much that they have any more cases than the West, but they have a real shortage of healthcare workers and doctors. And the example they give, they did an interview with a doctor from Poland. His name is Dr. Lucek Rosnicki, and he works 36-hour shifts. Now, he worked 36-hour shifts before the pandemic. See, they had a shortage of doctors in Poland before the pandemic. But now that they do, sometimes he works 74-hour shifts with nothing but short naps in between. He said he would work longer if he could, because one time after a 74-hour shift, he went home. And almost immediately 3 people died because there wasn't a doctor to care for them. But he said, look, I've worked 74 hours straight with just a couple naps in between. He said, if I were to stay any longer, he said, I might have killed somebody because I had to sleep. Okay. Now, Poland has 238 doctors per 100,000 people. It's by far the lowest in the EU. No place else is even close. Now, why is there such a shortage of doctors in Poland? Okay. Doctors and nurses and other healthcare workers, big time shortage. Okay. Why? Well, because healthcare workers have moved to the UK, to Germany, and to Italy for more money. And not just a little bit more money. In some cases, a lot more money. 5 to 6 times the pay that they're getting in Poland. Now, that's a lot of money. You know, we're not talking an extra 20%, an extra 30%, an extra 50%. We're talking an extra 5 to 600%. And I have to ask, can you blame them? In Hungary, healthcare workers can get 5 times the wages with shorter hours worked if they just move to Germany. In Estonia, they can get 5 times their wages if they just go to Finland. Now, something to consider. Let me ask you a question. Would you move from the U.S. to Germany? or from the U.S. to Finland.